Alien Earth was nothing like I was expecting in the best way. This thing explores so many topics that are so relevant to our world today. So by the end of this video, we're going to understand the themes that are being talked about and the characters a little deeper. Let's get into this.
Yeah, but we're talking about the Earth. Who rules what? The kid hasn't done his social studies.
There's 4 companies that govern the entire globe.
Don't forget the new one, Prodigy.
What's that one?
It's synths, AI, started by a kid maybe 10 years ago.
Boy Cavalier.
That's the one. Youngest trillionaire ever.
So you got 5 companies that run the entire world. Does that not sound like what's going on today, where things are headed towards, right? And then you have a commentary with this boy genius, who are these like tech bros that are taking over the world currently as well. First trillionaire, we see that that's also about to happen. We're about to have our first trillionaire, which is Elon. And so we see how these companies in this show will exploit whoever, whatever, for profit, for the vision they have for humanity. There hasn't been a better time to explore these themes as right now. And if we rewind a little bit to the very, very beginning of the episode, we get this, where it says, in the future, the race for immortality will come in 3 guises: cyborgs, synthetics, and hybrids. And a great question to ask ourselves here is it really about immortality, or is it about something else? Like, why are these people looking for immortality? Especially when it comes to the hybrids, which we're definitely going to talk about. Because a big question these first 2 episodes ask us is, what is humanity? And are any of these options actually a form of immortality? So something I just want to mention that was really cool is this show essentially opens up in the same exact way that the original Alien opens up. It's almost like a shot for shot situation sometimes. Also, another thing that I'm curious about is, so this guy over here, Mr. Tang, he's a synth, right? He's synthetic, not human at all. Morrow right here, he is a cyborg, right? But what's really interesting is attitude-wise, behavior-wise, he behaves like a synth. I need y'all to leave in my comments why you think he acts like that. Like, is his humanity, did they take out part of his humanity, you think? Do you think some part of his brain may be cyborg? I don't know. He behaves as if he's a synth for some reason, not just a human with some type of machine parts in him. You know what I'm saying? What do you think is the reason for that? As we're introduced to the characters and the specimens that they collected, we're told that they had to sacrifice a lot to get those specimens. So I'm wondering if they had a bigger crew that ended up dying to collect it, like we've seen in other Alien movies, or what. As they're all going into cryosleep here, we see flashes of these terrible things happening. And I thought this was a flashback, but it turns out that it's actually a flash forward to what we're going to see later in this episode, in episode 2. I thought that was interesting. But I want to talk about the hybrids because this was by far the most interesting concept to explore with how it deals with things like disability and everything. So let's listen to this part real quick.
Scorpion must feel trapped under glass, menaced by giants.
I think that idea is going to come back where it's so relevant today, how the giants, in my opinion, that he's talking about are these companies, these tech people that are running the whole world, that have a grip on everything. And there's going to be a revolt, right? Not to the synth, to Kirsch. I think he's also talking about humanity kind of holding down robots, but I feel like it works both ways. But as we get into this situation, this part of the show really got to me because there's been a conversation recently in the mainstream talking about eugenics, and that is what we are seeing right here. This is the perfect example of that. These companies are taking disabled children and exploiting them for their own financial gain, to realize the vision they have for the world, to make them more perfect of specimens here. Like, this is just eugenics 101. And seeing this tech bro exploit these disabled children is really, it just hits home for me because I'm disabled myself. I have cystic fibrosis, and they're pitching them this life of no sickness and this and that. And instead of making the world so it could accommodate and for people with disabilities to be able to live in the world, they're trying to slash their existence and get rid of their humanity and make them hybrids, which isn't even really human. So essentially they're killing them for scientific research. That's essentially what's happening, stripping them of their humanity, but saying they'll be able to keep it and be able to live forever and all this kind of stuff. But that's just not was actually occurring. And so this whole process like really got to me. And obviously you have the Peter Pan references going on with the Lost Boys, and her new body is going to be called Wendy and all this kind of stuff. And in a way, I see this as they're selling them a fiction, a non-reality, right? So yes, there's a metaphor to the themes within Peter Pan, but what I see it as is it's them selling them a fictional life, a fictional story, a fictional idea.
Serotonin, estrogen, testosterone that create moods. You don't have those anymore.
We've tried to simulate them, to simulate adolescence as you grow into your adult body.
See, so they are not human anymore. They are code. It's a simulation inside a human body. But they're no different than a synth outside of somehow their soul gets transferred. But we don't really know what that means yet. In that machine that they were using, maybe they just like take all the memories and this and that out of the body and put it in. Like, we don't really know that process, but it's not like the essence of Marcy is going to be in Wendy. Like, it's a simulation. And so that's not living forever. That's not immortality. And then this part really got to me too, because instead of the company now trying to get other families and kids on board, they're using Wendy herself to pitch the idea. And this is exactly what happens with the brainwashing in our society when it comes to ableism. The best way to get to a group is to brainwash one person inside the group and then have that person spread the lies out within the group, right? And so once again, they're just exploiting her to recruit other disabled kids into this program, and they're exploiting all of them. And it's like, at what cost? And a lot of the times, disabled lives are the cost. If you're liking this breakdown and want to see more like it, I'm going to drop one every single week. So go ahead and hit subscribe and like so they'll pop up on your feed. And then we move on to this scene once again, which we have a question of humanity. Morrow, for some reason, just seems to have no humanity. Like, he has no emotions. He has no fear. Like, he just has no care in the world outside of being a corporate puppet. And I want to know, is it just how much he's getting paid? Because he brought that up before, like talking about Tang and his payment. So I don't know. We're going to have to see. I just want to say I love this depiction of the alien monster in this show. Like, ferocious, a beast, unrelenting. Like, I feel like it's one of the scariest depictions we've seen. But Morrow seems to be able to just not really care about this alien and can take care of it because he's a cyborg. He has those powers. And talking about powers, we got to talk about this real quick. So Wendy seems to have a power where she can like hack into the network, the code that like runs the whole entire world, and like mess with technology where people can't. I wonder what that's about. And I wonder, like, the company didn't know that she would be able to do that. So I wonder if it's something about the process from transferring her over to Wendy that allowed her to do that, if it had something to do with Marcy, the original girl. What do you think? Let me know what you think about that. So we get the ship crashing into the city, and part of me wants to know if this was on purpose, because it's like one company that crashed it into a different company's territory, and they obviously know they have the alien and the specimens and stuff on there. And I'm wondering if they're doing it on purpose to cause some type of infestation. I'm curious if it was planned.
Beyond our human frequencies, 75,000 hertz.
So that comes back later on in episode 2, where Wendy's hearing something and no one else can hear it. So I don't know what she's hearing. I don't know if she's hearing like one of the, species on board, or if it's something else. I don't know. What do y'all think she's hearing? But Wendy sees that her brother is responding to the crash, so she wants to go save him. But listen to this.
They're still in the prototype stage. The loss of a single unit would be devastating.
Yeah, so don't lose one.
See, they're referring to Wendy and the other kids as units now, right? This ain't about immortality. This ain't about humanity, right? They're just a commodity. I have a question for y'all though. How do you feel about this group of people acting childlike in this show? Do you think that introduces an interesting dynamic or an annoying dynamic? I think the level of being naive and childlike in a universe like Alien, where it's so horrifying and daunting, I think it could introduce an interesting contrast to what's going on We haven't seen it throughout these first 2 episodes, how that childlikeness is butting heads against like a monster, like a survival type story. We'll see where that goes. But yeah, I want to know how y'all feel about it, because it's definitely an interesting tone. So this part of the episode was really cool to me. This whole entire part of the brother and the other responders going throughout the ship, because I was not expecting there to be other species outside of the alien stuff we've seen in the movies, right? But you got different parasites and different, like, just, I think there was like 4 or 5 different specimens that they captured that were just wreaking havoc on these people. And I thought that was a really cool thing to introduce. It gives it some variety and more mystery, because we just don't know the origins of these things and what's going to happen. But we know what it means when we see one of those. We know that means there's a xenomorph nearby. I can't show this on YouTube, but this scene right here was crazy with the parasite crawling on him. Like, they had some good scary scenes in these first 2 episodes, which is good. Then we end with this monologue right here, which was important.
You're born, you live, you die.
My brother is not gonna die.
Of course he will. Injury, illness, old age. They all do. Generation after generation. All we can do is watch and take names.
No, he's not gonna die. I'm gonna save him.
The reason that is so interesting to me is because Kirsch, as a synth, is definitely giving one of them evil synths like from the movies, where he feels like he's better than humanity. That's what he's giving me, right? But what's interesting is on the other side, you have Wendy, who also, she's essentially saying, I'm going to save my brother no matter what. He's not going to die. So is she going to eventually be put in a situation where she has to do something so ethically wrong to save her brother? She's not really sacrificing her humanity because she's not a human. It's going to be really interesting to see what that ends up meaning. When she's dead set on her brother not dying, what is she going to do? What lengths is she going to do to reach this immortality for her brother? We'll see. Like, is she going to force him to undergo the procedure she did? Like, what's going to happen? As we move into episode 2, a lot of it is centered more around the monsters and figuring out what's going on with that, and just setting up the storyline for that and the mystery of their origins and what's going on.
I think it'll be worth it.
Such potential. People say that about children. What they could be.
You're talking about achievement, but it's about becoming.
See, she's full of it too, because she's stripping them of all potential, because she's not allowing them to actually become. She's taking all that away and somehow gaslighting herself into believing she's actually helping them on a human level, which she is not. But then we get the boy Genius actually explaining what he wants out of this process, which, let's listen.
People always think it's about money with trillionaires.
Do you know what I really want? I want to talk to somebody smarter than me.
So he says it's not about money or ego. He just wants to speak to someone smarter than him. Well, that reeks of ego, my friend. But even that just seems like a lie to me. Like, it really does. I don't think it's about actually sitting down and having a conversation with somebody. No.
Father, Frank J. Hermit, died January 16 of last year.
So we see in this scene here how Wendy has the ability to like hack into the code to be able to speak to her brother through this machine, which is really interesting. I want to know, like, what is it about? How? I want to know how. Can't wait to see that mystery get answered. See, that's where she's hearing something that nobody else is hearing. So in this scene here, you got the 2 companies talking to each other, and the company that owns the ship wants their proprietary stuff back that's on the ship. But something ain't right there.
Fear is for animals. You are not animals. Now move.
So we get that, right? And then we get this right here.
Just take calm, friend. They can sense fear.
Not your friend.
So now we know that they are hunting on fear. And it's interesting because with the hybrids, they don't have emotions. It's just all simulated. So I don't think that they'll be chasing the hybrids, which is kind of interesting. Can't really show this scene with what happens with the alien in this scene, but I think it's really interesting how like the top 1% here is doing like cosplay on this like Victorian era, and they're just so in their own world that they don't even know something crashed into their building. And it really just speaks on like in real life, how out of touch the 1% are from the pain and the suffering everybody else is going through. Now, when it comes to Morrow being able to just capture this alien, I mean, based on what I just said about the fear thing, with his cyborgness, did they somehow get rid of his emotions in some capacity, or is he just better able to control them? Like, how does that work? Wendy finally catches up with her brother and, you know, says, hey, I'm Marcy. And then he asks a bunch of questions till he realizes it is her, which has to be just a ridiculous experience. You know what I'm saying? I'm curious how he feels about once he understands the procedure and what happened. Like, I wonder if he's actually going to see this hybrid as his sister. I am curious about that. Then we see that there's eggs for the alien, and I'm curious as to how these came about, because I thought there needed to be the queen for that, but I'm not seeing it here. So maybe they retcon something or change something. I don't know. But that's where the episode ends. So overall, there was just a lot of themes about immortality, disability, exploitation, capitalism, profiting, science, disease, a whole bunch of stuff in this first 2 episodes, which are going to get expanded on more throughout the season. And I love this season so much. It's so good so far. These first 2 episodes, I can't wait to see where it goes. Until next week, I'll see y'all.